And we are back. I missed you last week. I'm hoping that you missed me too. So we're going to assume that we miss each other. We missed the conversation. We missed the space. We missed the topic. I'm excited about today. There's some things I want to talk about, and there's never been a better space, a more open space to talk about it, especially knowing that it relates to creativity, and that is what this space is intended for, right? But I want to get into it. I feel like because we had that week of absence, we have to get back in the swing of things and like get to it like sooner rather than later. So we're gonna start off how we always start off, with an exercise in mindfulness. As always, 10 breaths. Focus on your breath. I prefer your eyes closed. Starting now. Now that we're here, let me drink some water. I have I have a frog in my throat. Now that we're here, as always, we're gonna do a little puzzle or riddle. A brain teaser is a better way to say it. And the one I have for you is: I'm an odd number. Take away one letter, and I become even. I'm an odd number. Take away one letter, and I become even. What number am I? Today, what do I want to talk about? I don't know, the last day or two, maybe yesterday specifically. Thursdays are always my longest days, because I do a lot, and there's always like overlap, and I play a professor as a part of my life as well, along with the stuff I do in consulting from a creativity standpoint, and then the startup I run. But today's episode is not figuring out what I do and how my day is split. It's about the overlap that happens on Thursday. And Thursday was really unique because I had all three of those things that I mentioned happen, and there was some overlap. And there's a theme across yesterday, and the theme was memory and memories. And I've always had, and I continue to have, a love-hate relationship with memory. It's been interesting because I believe that it is a gift and a curse. I think having a really good memory can be really good and sometimes awfully bad. Depends on what it is you remember and how vividly you remember it. And I've always found that interesting because there's certain things that I would hope that I would forget, but I never do. And on the other side of that, there's things that I choose to remember. And I don't know that I have really bad memories. I guess that's subjective. But I definitely have a large bank of memories, like a large safe of memories that I keep. And I think the times when my memories or my ability to memorize or retain or recollect is when I'm around my family. I feel like, and my immediate family, like the family I grew up with, not the family I created, the family that I grew up with. And I don't know, when I'm around them, like all these different memories pop up, and I can recollect incidents and occurrences, and it's always like funny because whenever we'd get together as a family, it's those memories that lead the conversation and the laughs in the room. But yesterday was interesting because in one of my classes, I teach innovation as well, and there's this exercise that I was doing with my class, and we've been doing it over the course of the semester, like understanding innovation as it relates to future innovation, diffusion, how we see the world in the future, and creating artifacts and innovations for the future that we're predicting based on what we see, the trajectory of how things are going. And one of the students presented their project, or they were all presenting, but when we got to this one particular student, her innovation was this idea of the ability to manipulate memory, to change it, to erase some aspects of it, to modify it. And that would be the invention or the innovation. And I remember when I first heard her like introduce the idea, my first thought was, for memory is deeply connected to trauma and carrying trauma over time and over generation. And my first thought was, here's an opportunity for us as a society leveraging technology to eliminate or erase or eradicate trauma by eliminating the memories that are the trigger that are tied to the triggers that cause us to react the way we do in normal life, or that shapes our interaction with the world. And I sat with that for a little, like in the class. I couldn't give it the time it needed, because I had a class to facilitate, and it sat with me. And this was a late class, but it sat with me because, as much as in that moment that was the thought process in my head, like this idea of like, how can we remove bad memories so we can forget our trauma and move forward. Earlier in that day, I hosted a private unlocking creativity workshop. And if you've ever taken a workshop, or if you're interested in taking a workshop, let me know. But it is a deeply personal experience centered around your five senses, and using that to almost recollect or recollect memory, and that allows you to reconnect with your senses. And but it is deeply personal, and it for some reason is memory triggering. And in it, all these memories that you might have intentionally forgotten or lost, you find it. They are found in this time, in this workshop. And I've always said, and I think maybe in the first episode, I said the creative process is using your intuition to establish a first impression, your awareness to establish a connection, and then your imagination is expand upon the possibilities. And it's a 3-step process within the creative process. And a huge part of that is memory, your ability to recollect and retrieve the things, your past experiences. Now, that is important because in those moments, in these workshops, or in the execution of this workshop, I realized how important memory is to creativity, how it is the raw material, it is the foundation of how and why we are creative. Because there is a first impression and intuition, and this awareness that we need to have to make a connection. But that awareness is a byproduct of an experience that we've had. And that experience could be triggered by multiple different things. It could be a scent, it could be a smell, it could be something you see, something you hear, something you touch. And that is the basis of what starts the creative process. And which means that memories, if not the single most important thing, is one of the most important aspects of creativity. And it made me think back now as I'm reflecting on it in my memory, what that innovation, if it were to come to fruition, and in the future, there is a device or a tool or technology that allows you to erase memory or modify memory or change memory to something you'd like, as much as it could eliminate trauma and increase, in theory, positive experiences moving forward. I think it can negatively impact your creativity. I think a lot of creative work comes from traumatic experiences. I think the journey that is life, and the obstacles and the errors and the mishaps and the circumstances that challenge us, and the ones that sit in the part of our brain responsible for memory, is in a lot of ways the things that drive creativity. And those memories could be good or bad. Like, I think, in all honesty, even for the individuals that claim, like myself, to have really good memories, I don't know that we remember every single detail of the occurrence. I think what we remember is mainly how it made us feel. And I would also say that it's less about the details of it, because ultimately it triggers a feeling, and that feeling is what drives creativity. But in that same breath, there's the opposite side of that too, where it's some of those memories that serve as blockage. I think when we have had bad experiences that create limits, or we remember times where we weren't allowed to be our authentic self. We weren't allowed to take risks, or the memory of the limitations that existed when we were children, or the memory of the person who was intentional about not allowing us to be ourselves, and all the naysayers, they still exist. They are still subconsciously present and are still impacting the way that our creativity grows, and the way that it expands. I think those bad memories of bad experiences serve as blockage and blocks our ability to go beyond the boundaries and maybe even take the risk that we need to find our creative selves. But I would argue that even with those being there, those can serve as inspiration, right? Like, it gives, for us creatives, we also need things, hurdles to overcome. We need obstacles to work around and opportunities to feel that there's a barrier to break through, that there's circumstances that we need sometimes that serve as motivation. And I realize that even if those bad experiences don't exist, we have the ability to create in our memories occurrences that may have not happened, but are needed to trigger almost this creative inspiration. As I mentioned before, I don't think our as vivid as our memories could be, there's some detail that is always absent, or that is always like created or conjured, or almost like we do this amazing job of filling in the gaps in our memory to help tell a story, or to help give us the I don't want to say the mood, but the feeling we need in order to do whatever it is that we want to. I like, and I think of like actors who can like cry on command, and how they're able to do that. I've seen enough, or at least a few of them, talk about what that process is like, and they just go back to like a bad memory, or at least a memory that triggers tears for them, and that's how they're able to do it. Same thing with like laughter, or any emotion, right? And I think that proves how important or how vital or how relevant memory is to the creative process. And it's always interesting to see such a blatant display of from memory to creativity. And as we're talking through this, and knowing our ability to manipulate memory today, like there's this idea of like selective amnesia, or we choose what we want to remember and we forget the things that we don't want to remember. We suppress memory. We amplify stories to the point where we've amplified it enough that we even forget what the truth was or what actually happened. And as I'm talking about it now, I realize that this future world where this technology exists that allows us to manipulate memory, or at least create memories in a way that we can use to our advantage, or allows us to see or interact with the world differently, actually exists today. And it's a skill that we as humans have without technology. It almost feels like it's a part of being human. The ability to create is innate to human beings. Creativity is gifted to us at birth. And as much as we can and continue to create new memories the moment our eyes open in the morning time, when we close them at night and we dream, we can manipulate scenarios that existed. We can rewrite the script of our past experiences, some of us better than others. and make it so vivid and detailed that we ourselves believe in. That in itself is a gift. And it can be really bad depending on the circumstances. But it can also be good because the art and the creativity that comes from it can be remarkable. Creativity gives us an outlet. But what that outlet produces is heavily dependent on the type of memory we use to produce it. Memories will and continue to remain an integral part of the creative process. As much as I would want to eliminate all the bad memories, I understand how important they are in helping you to craft the tools, the coping mechanisms, that could help you and help other people overcome whatever traumatic experience that they've had. They are, in fact, a necessary evil, if you consider them evil. And they can, in fact, also be the greatest good. I don't know if I'm ready for a world where we use technology to do that, when it's a gift and a skill that we have today without it. This is interesting. Whatever memories you have, good or bad, don't let the bad ones limit your creativity. Use them. And let the good ones help you to push the boundaries of all the creative limitations that the bad ones may have set. I'll end this how we started. I'm an odd number. Take away one letter and I become even. What number am I? The number 7. You take away one letter, it's S, and then it's even. Go be great.